Hello again, I am Jim Bob and welcome back to our City Sundays City Live Building series that we're doing. So, last time out we were working on this area over here, trying to establish a small little residential community on the side of what is going to become a bit of a touristy area for us with the waterfront here. We dropped in some hotels down here and we put some little bits of leisure zoning in as well, so you can see we've got a little bit of sort of leisure commercial buildings along here alongside some of our activities. So you can see we've got arcades and we've got restaurants and we've got obviously our beach volleyball courts in there on the waterside and our restaurant and fishing piers and so on and so forth. And then we kind of started a little bit over here as well with our floating restaurant. We've got this area reasonably well established. We're going to continue tinkering with this a little bit today. You can see we've got a few abandoned buildings. We're not getting enough people in at the moment for this to sustain itself. So we need to get some more people into the area. Plus you can see we've got a big demand for residential at the moment too. So we're going to continue to expand this area a little bit, and then we're going to move off and we're going to start working on a slightly different area. Not quite sure where yet, but we'll do a little bit more tinkering over here. The education system is sorting itself out. People are slowly getting educated in here, which is good. A lot more people need to go through the school system before we'll completely eliminate things like not enough staff. But there's only one or two buildings that now have that popping up, as opposed to a lot earlier on. Let's take a look in the chat. We have Guga, Scott, Devon, and Generous is in there as well. How are you guys doing? Scott says, what happened to the train sim on Tuesday? Unfortunately, my sleep pattern is all over the place at the moment, and I woke up on Tuesday morning around about midnight. So I was up, and then, in fact, no, maybe it was before that. I think it was maybe about 11 o'clock at night on Monday night was when I woke up, because my sleep pattern has been all over the place. And I tried to stay up, and I got to about 4:30, 5 o'clock, and I just fell asleep, and that was it. I didn't wake up then till about 1 in the morning, and it was just too late by that point, so I wasn't able to actually put the broadcast out. So apologies for that, but we will be back with more TSW Tuesday this week. I'll make sure I'm awake for it this time. Dear oh dear. Cornish Simmer Matty has popped in as well. How are you doing? Good to see you. Mr. Watter. So let's continue building on this area. We've got this nice little patch of ground over here that we can do something with, and we've still only got one sort of access point. We've still got an access point on this roundabout that's available to come into this little area over here. So let's put in some stuff over here. Let's start with some basic roads. We're going to go freeform, and we're going to pull a road off. So through here, and this road is going to kind of loop around a little bit, and we want that to connect up with this road here as straight as it will possibly go. And we're going to have a little bit of an angle, aren't we? So let's just continue the curve around a bit more then. Go slightly more smoothed out curve through there, and then we can fill in some side streets on either side of this road here. Don't want to get too close to the freeway. We'll bring a road through here. Try and fill up some of that space there. Bring a little connection down there like that. Might be able to just squeeze a touch more on there. There we go. put a straight piece in across here so that we can put a park or something in without it distorting too badly. So let's just go to straight road. It's going to be easier. There we go. And we'll do similar over here as well. We've got power lines in the way at the moment, but they'll get relocated or removed entirely. So that'll free up some of that zoning just there. And this now, this little clump of trees is perfect for a park, because we've got a nice straight edge. That's a playground. There we go. A nice straight edge that we can build that on there. Let's see. Let's go there. Like that. Just make sure I've got water pipes up this way. Oh, and immediately, see that flurry of green ping upgrade arrows there. Love to see it when that happens. You always know you've done something right when you suddenly see a whole load of buildings just upgrade like crazy. Let's take it up just a touch more. Actually, no, I don't need to there. That's pretty much fine. The only potential issue is that one square just there on this block of 4 here might be an issue, because obviously we're not going to be building on the edge of the roundabout itself. So that gives us water coverage in the new area. Let's go ahead and drop in some zoning. I kind of like the idea of maybe having a few shops alongside the park here. So I'm going to take... I see, so that power line goes all the way out there, doesn't it? Okay, well, that's fine. We'll need to rework those power lines a little bit, because we can't lose the power to the water, or else it's going to kill everything that we've got so far. So let's just redirect the lines a little bit. Need to get something to spawn in just here, so let's drop in a couple of residential houses there first of all, just to get that zone to hit those power lines. Let's see, GP's popped in the chat as well, and Andy Seston as well. Good to see you guys. And Dan as well. Didn't see Dan. Have we got connection? Yes, we have. Right, so now we can get rid of these power lines here. In fact, we can get rid of all of these power lines all the way through here now. There we go. That will free up a little bit more zoning space. You can see some of these buildings... We take that building out, actually. Can now be built in at the right size. Can drop that out. I'm going to take this house out, and hopefully we can get a 3-wide building to spawn just there in its place. Again, we've got a little bit of extra zoning available here, so let's take those houses out, and hopefully we'll get something bigger in that area and through here as well. Now that extra space is available. And a random bit there as well. Let's take that house out and that house out. Then something bigger can spawn in that spot. Let's get those little bits of shops in around the park. Like that. And let's paint in some more residential around here. We'll use a brush for this one. Just paint that in nice and quickly. And then same through here. We'll paint all this as residential as well, I think. There we go, and go back to select, just so I can make sure the little bits that need to be filled in are filled in without filling in other stuff. There we go. We should see some nice little bits of growth popping up over here. Let's take a quick look at the chat. Scott says, have I put in a bus depot to get buses running around yet? Not yet, because it's only a small little area so far, so I'm not worried about that yet. But we will definitely be adding, you know, public services in terms of transport links into our city as it gets bigger and bigger. Mr. Author says, the latest patch on FS19 hasn't fixed the floating cotton bales. I don't really spend that much time doing cotton because it's quite expensive to get started, so I wouldn't know on that. I haven't done cotton for a couple of months now. Dan wanted to ask a question and then deleted the message asking, can he ask a question? What's the question, Dan? And while you're thinking of the question, let's continue to work this bit of space over here. Oops, we're still on a straight road, aren't we? Take that out. Go back to freeform. Let's kind of continue this kind of... it's almost like a Wi-Fi signal that we're building here, isn't it? Going up like that. We'll continue building the Wi-Fi district. Take that around, all the way around like that. And then we can start to get a little bit more creative on this side of it. I'm going to have a straight road here for now. Let's bring it and then curve it round. There we go. Oh, my Blu-ray drive, my laptop suddenly started firing up. I've been watching Fringe. I picked up the Fringe Blu-ray box set, treated myself a couple of days ago. I love that show, and I haven't seen it since they took it off Netflix a couple of years ago. And so, you know, I finally decided to buy the box set on Blu-ray, and it's just as good a show as I remember. So I've been binge watching through. I think I'm halfway through season 3 already. I only started watching it about a day and a half ago. So yeah, burning through Fringe nice and quickly. Andy says, how easy is this game to just pick up and play? It's... What, in terms of how difficult is it to get started? I mean, it's easy enough to get going, but to be, you know, ultimately successful with the cities that you build, it does take a little bit of trial and error, a bit of practice. So it's not one of those games that you can instantly just be good at. You've got to, you know, like most things in life these days, you've got to put the time in, and you've got to be prepared to fall flat on your face a few times. But no, it's not overly complicated, and there are plenty of guides out there to sort of help you get started, and I'm hoping that people can pick up a few tips from the stuff that I'm doing as well, in terms of, you know, just trying to create something that, you know, has a nice style to it, or a nice look, or, you know, works quite well. You can see we're trying to fill in this space around here in a more organic kind of road design than just grids. You might see in a small town or something like that, or certainly in the UK anyway. Not so much maybe over in America, but just trying to create something that feels, you know, real world like. Got a bit of an issue with our piping over here. going off at an angle. That's why that looks a bit weird. Never mind, we'll leave it like that for now. Let's continue to just extend our water grid. Another little house upgrading there. That little flash with the green arrow. Of course, we would be just a fraction short there, wouldn't we? There we go. Do the same there as well. I'll just move that across a bit more. There we go. And same again, just over here. It's going to need a little bump. There we go. So we've got water in all of those new places over there. Scott says you can still put taxis in. They're always good. Yes, yeah, of course we can do taxis. I will create a taxi rank at some point. I always like to have taxis in the city because, you know, it's just something you see in real life, isn't it? You don't see cities that don't have taxis. It just doesn't exist. Even if those taxis, you know, depending on where you are in the world, even those taxis, you know, are essentially just a man and a cart. You know, the taxi service exists pretty much everywhere. Again, I think we could probably do something here, actually. If I take that road out, we can put something nice in that area. Let's see. Put a big playground in that area, I think. Something for the kiddies. There we go. We're just going to paint this all as residential to start with, and then we can go in and we can tweak certain bits and turn them into commercial. But we'll let those people zone in for now. Let's take another look at the chat. Elmar says, or Elmer says, I tried playing City Skylines, can't seem to make it profitable. When you think you're doing something, doing good, something's going to go wrong. Yeah, I mean, one of the hardest things when you're first learning the game is making sure that your city's making a profit. I mean, there are various different ways you can do that with your economy tab. So you can boost your tax income. So one of the things that I like to do as soon as I get access to taxes is push all the taxes up on the low density to 12%. Any higher than that, then citizens will probably start to complain after, you know, almost immediately or after a short while. So going up to sort of 12% tax is a great way across the boost your income. So you can see at the moment, our money at the moment, we're losing 27, which it's immediately becoming a much less of a deficit because we've just bumped up those taxes. You can see how quickly that's generating additional income for the city. It can slow growth down a little bit in terms of how many people move in because they're having to pay more to, you know, to survive in the area. But you can see how much of a change that's had. Now, we're playing with unlimited money on this, so it doesn't matter if the city's profitable or not. It's just everything's unlocked and we have unlimited money, so we can just build whatever we want immediately. But yeah, one of the hardest things is, you know, balancing your economy to start with. So you can see already we've just brought in an extra 10 grand just from doing that little tweak to the taxes. Another way you can do it is by going into your budget, and if you have a lot of surplus power when you're first getting started, you can lower your power budget down like that. Drop it down anywhere all the way down to 50% if you so wanted to, and that can save you a fair amount of money. Same with water as well. If you've got a massive surplus of water, and you know you've got, let's take a look. I'll show you what I mean. If we go to the water thing here, you can see at the moment we have a water pumping capacity of 720,000 cubic meters of water a week, and we're only consuming 160 effectively. So you can massively reduce your water budget so that you're not your pumping capacity is severely reduced, but you're not paying anywhere near as much for the service. And then as your city starts to grow, you need to go back in and make sure that you kind of top that back up a little bit, keep pushing that budget back up and up again to keep in line, so that you're not falling below the demand and start getting problems in your city. So that's another way that you can save money. Also, when you get access to things like buses, having buses running around is another way to make good money on your passengers. So getting buses running from residential areas to commercial zones, or residential areas to industrial zones, so you can get people moving around and getting to where they need to go. It can have two effects. One, it can obviously generate income from your buses, but secondly, it can also reduce the amount of traffic on your roads as well, as people will use the public transport rather than driving out there on their own. So it can improve the flow of traffic around your city as well. So there are a number of different ways that you can go about trying to maximise, your profitability in your city. And some of it becomes, common sense. Some of it becomes second nature the more you do it, and some of it, you don't necessarily immediately think of. But don't be afraid to sort of experiment and trial things and see what works for you. There are some things that will work, and there are some things that won't work. And if you never try to experiment with things, you'll never actually know just how easy it is, or how difficult it is to try that, to get those things into action. Let's put some commercial through here. Just rezone these blocks here. Get some shops running across these blocks here. Like that. There we go. That'll sate our demand for some commercial property. Yeah, I think that's building on this side of the road, isn't it? Paul is in the chat. How you doing, Paul? Marcel, good to see you, Marcel. Chesley and David Henderson, good to see you all. There we go. So this area is coming along quite nicely in terms of buildings popping up. You can see we've got some more going in over here, and possibly upgrading as well. And just this little expansion that we've been doing here around this bit and moving across into this bit has just added in around 2,000 people so far into the city. And that's partly through improved services throughout our city, so making sure that we've got plenty of parks, schools, good health, fire and police coverage. They all boost a citizen's happiness, and the happier the citizens are, the more likely they are to start breeding and reproducing, which means bigger houses, which means more population. So the more services that you have in there, the better. We're going to go to our trusty dog park, because we do love using this so much. We're going to find a nice spot for a dog park to try and give ourselves a leisure boost. You can see the areas that are low accessibility, so they're the areas that we want to try and focus on improving a little bit. And I'm trying to find a good spot for this so it's not going to look out of place, and it's not going to tear down too many houses in the process as well. Kind of like it here in this corner. I can't quite get it the way I want it to. There's not too bad. Maybe instead of a dog park, maybe we can go with maybe a plaza with trees. I prefer to put those in commercial areas or industrial areas. Yeah, we'll go with the small dog park, because it is a very small park. Just got to find the right spot for it. Let's go there. And that's had an immediate positive effect, and we should see some green arrows start to ping through the area as a result of that. There's a couple. There's a few more. They're all starting to upgrade now. There's another couple of buildings upgrading, which means increasing the population in those areas as well. Excellent stuff. And then over here we've got low accessibility for residential activities as well. Let's go with something a little different. Let's go with a bouncy castle. Let's plonk that here on the end, I think. There we go, something a little bit different. Apparently, Dan's laptop got hijacked by his nephew. That's why the question disappeared. Let's get rid of these abandoned areas. There's one there. There's one over here. Got a few businesses that are kind of still struggling for educated workers. Let's check our education, actually. So high school at the moment is way below capacity. Or sorry, is way over capacity. 2 in there. We've got low coverage in this area. Could probably do with another elementary school somewhere, or relocating one. Actually, that might be a better idea if we relocated that one somewhere where there's a bit more accessibility. That would mean relocating all of this over here as well. We've only got the one high school. I don't know if we need another one just yet. So let's go into our economy and let's change our education budget. Oh, it's already maxed, so we are going to need another school. So we've got a little commercial zone here by the park. We could also put our school here near the park as well. Where did we put that playground? That's a park. That's a park. Where did we put that playground? Ah, over there. There it is. Okay. So let's see. Is that too close to the other school? Yeah, I kind of want the other school somewhere over here. So how about this space just here on this edge? Plonk the school there. Oh, you just hear the upgrades pinging like crazy. Now we've got good high school education coverage for this part of our city. All of these buildings are upgrading like crazy. Such a it's such a satisfying sound is to hear that constant ping of buildings upgrading. Andy says the game is expensive if you want all the DLC. If you want it all in one go and you want it all as it comes out, then yes. But I mean, Skylines has been on sale a number of times. The DLC has been on sale from time to time as well. So I mean, if you're just getting into the game, then there's no reason why you can't pick up like the base game and the first set of DLCs. You know, for the price it would have cost, I think probably just for the game on its own when it first launched. You know, I think it's the Mayor's Edition, which includes all of the Season Pass 1 content. I'm not quite sure how much that is, but I get the feeling it certainly can be a lot cheaper than having bought everything individually. And the new content is obviously going to still yet to come, so it's going to be an increasing expense as it goes forward. But, I mean, it adds a lot of variety to what you can put down and how you can develop your cities. So some of the DLC is probably better than others in terms of, you know, the value that they bring, but they all have their benefits and they all have their good points. Paul says maybe a swimming pool or a leisure centre. I do want to do that, but I want to save those until I'm quite happy. We do have a swimming pool over here, actually, an outdoor pool. We do need to kind of work on this area at some point as well. But I want to figure out what I want to do with the railway before I continue developing over here. I don't know if I've got a sports hall in yet. Let's check health. No, I've just got the single medical centre over there at the moment. Might need a second medical centre, actually. Average health is only 65. Do with maybe getting a medical centre up here, I think. Somewhere that's going to boost this part of the city. Needs to have decent access on both sides. That's not too bad. Put it in here next to the park. We'll lose a couple of smaller buildings, but that's okay. Again, we should hopefully see some pings. I can hear them. Yeah, there we go. Getting some upgrades popping in already. Shadow's popped in the chat. How you doing, Shadow? Matty asks, how did I get into YouTube? I just, I wanted to find a way to connect with people. So I just started recording some gameplay and sticking it up there, and enough people enjoyed what I did to see some growth on the channel. It took a long time to get going, but once it did, the channel grew and grew, and now I'm over 10,000 subscribers in a 2-year period. So, the first year, I think by the end of year 1, I think I hit 2,000 people, or around 2,000 people around the end of the first year. Or maybe it was 3,000 by the end of the first year. But the channel's definitely grown. I mean, people will watch what they want to watch, and if they like what you're doing, then they'll continue to watch, and they might even recommend you to other people, and then other people might come in and enjoy what they see and recommend you, and you spread through word of mouth, and initially when you're first getting started, and then you just get stumbled upon by people who are looking for something. Is another way that people can find you, but. As long as you're enjoying yourself and people are enjoying what you're doing, then, it'll be a slow process to get started, but you will take off. Right. There's not much more we can do with this little area over here. We've kind of gone right up against our main roads in on either side there, so let's start looking at getting everything up and running over here. So we've got our rail line coming in over here. I want to try and figure out how I want the rail line to work, because I want to bring this through, and I think X marks the spot was where we were going to put our station, if memory serves me correctly. So let's take a look at our rail options. You see, we've got the multi-platform end station, which is a really nice building. And then there is also the multi-platform through station. The trouble with this is, we don't have a rail connection on this side, so while it'd be nice to try out using this building, there's just nowhere relevant for us to put it down, because trains are going to come in, and then they're not really going to go out the other way. There isn't enough need for trains to go out the other way, so an end station is the best option. I've got an airport over there that's going to need a train service. I've got my industrial area over here. We could possibly do with a train service going that way. We certainly need train service going over here. We'll probably end up having a station somewhere over here as well. This station is perhaps a little bit too big. for our purposes. We could do with maybe a 4-platform station rather than a 6, but it'll do. It'll do its job. So this is where we roughly want it. So let's find a spot to plonk the station in. There we go. We'll take the road out. There we go. So that's our station. And I think what we'll do is we'll probably double up on some trains. So we'll have, or maybe just leave a couple of stations blank, a couple of platforms blank. But we'll try and mix our services up a little bit. I've just realised that's facing possibly the wrong direction. Oh, we can work with that. It's not too bad. Scott says I can use the tube train for the airport. It's got a built-in tube station. Yeah, I'll do that as well. I'll have I'll probably have a high-density area somewhere over here, and then I'll have a subway connection, a metro connection running that way. But for the actual hub over here, that's too long a journey in my eyes for a metro connection. So we'll have a rail connection instead. I want to have a station somewhere over here by the docks. So we want a regular little station over here. Want that right up against the edge there. Let's just bring this down a bit. Ah. Just match the length of the road. Come on. There we go. And station. In fact, actually, I know I've got the power lines there at the moment. We're going to relocate the power lines. I'm going to run this road all the way along there, and then take this one out. Run a road around the back like that. Pause for a second. Okay, so the station needs to be a little bit further away. Let's drag this road down a bit more. It goes there. That should hopefully be about right. Yeah, perfect. And now I should have space to put my power lines back in here. Like that. Let's get those connected up there. And I can now run my rail line along here, kind of mirroring the road itself a little bit. And we can have some trees or something just separating out the road from the railway. And at some point we'll raise that railway up, and then we'll curve that round, and then it'll head over towards our main hub over there. Let's take another look at the comments. KG Wiggums has popped in. How you doing? Andy asks, how do I do my recording? What do I use? I just use the PlayStation 4. PlayStation 4 does everything. has in-game capture of up to an hour. If you're on a PS4, standard PS4, then it'll do that in 720p. If you're on a PS4 Pro like me, it'll do it in 1080p. I can live stream direct to Twitch or YouTube. I think possibly you can also do Daily Motion. I don't know. I don't have a Daily Motion account, so I don't know if that function is still there. It used to be there. I don't know if that's been disabled now, but you can stream direct to Twitch or you can stream direct to YouTube, which is how I'm streaming right now using the PS4. And when it comes to editing my videos, I use the PS4. It has an editing suite built into it called Share Factory, and I use that to do everything. My thumbnails, my videos, my intros and outros, it all gets done on that. So yeah, my PS4 does everything. I don't have an expensive PC with all these amazing options, so oops. I'm lucky in the sense that I can do everything on the PS4 without the need for a powerful editing PC. There we go, and you can see our import-export dock system is working perfectly. There's our import dock and all the traffic coming out, and most of the stuff being exported. Not all of it, but most of it seems to be going out of this dock here. Actually, no, it's all going. It's all going in through there. Look, we're just using a single dock at the moment, but we are getting usage in both of them, so it's not too bad. Brandon's in the chat. How you doing, Brandon? You can see our road maintenance vehicles coming out now to clean up and improve the speed of traffic moving on those roads there. Dan says he's just downloaded Subnautica. Excellent choice. That is a fantastic game. I am going to go back and play that again at some point. I'm just struggling to find the time at the moment with everything else that I'm doing for the channel. Plus, I'm also looking at a brand new game which I'm going to be featuring at some point. Not sure where I'm going to squeeze this in. Might be a once-a-week thing, or might be a live stream. I don't know yet. But it's The Long Journey Home. It's kind of another roguelike kind of game, and I kind of haven't not really played any of those types of games for many years. Having played Genesis Alpha 1, I'm now looking to try out other roguelikes, and this is it's on sale actually on the UK store at the moment. It's part of the PlayStation Presents section of the sale. I think it's up to 70% off the games in that section. I forget how much it is, but I picked it up on sale, and it looks good. It's been out for about a year, I think, maybe a little bit longer. But it's a space exploration. Basically, get thrown off to the Alpha Quadrant, or wherever it is, or you're supposed to be jumping there, and something goes horribly wrong, and you have to figure out how to get all the way back to Earth. Harvesting resources and bumping up against aliens. It's going to be fun, I think. So I'm looking to bring that to the channel soon. I'm just getting to grips with it at the moment and trying to figure out how to stick that on the channel. Right, let's get back. I get distracted very easily. Let's get back to our railway situation over here. So I want to bring this railway line over towards the docks, sorry, to the station. This is just going to be a temporary line to start with. So this will change going forward. But I just want to kind of roughly figure out where I want my connection to be. So let's start to raise this up. Yep, there we go. Raise it up a bit more. Yeah, it's a smooth kind of gradient there. That's the way it should be. And we'll curve this around. And there you can see we've got that natural elevation change. So the railway actually stays pretty flat, but rejoins at the right height, which is what I was hoping to achieve. And then we're going to have kind of a central corridor of lines, hopefully, that run all the way through. Oh, way off course. That run all the way through. So if you see me with Train Sim World, you'll see that we have periods where we have just a couple of tracks side by side, a couple of sets of parallel tracks, and then we have sets where there are 4, and then on approach to a station, you know, that goes up dramatically in terms of the number of lines that are filtering in, and that's what we're going to try and achieve with this. Something a little bit akin to a more realistic kind of city railway connection. It's going to be tricky to pull it off, but we'll do what we can. So we've got a kind of a temporary initial line set up there, which runs out to our docks over here. We've got that nice gradual kind of climb, well, gradual for this game anyway, a nice gradual climb going up. And then it gets to this point and it stays level, and you can see it just a slight elevation change just here. It joins up, and it's at the right height that we can actually run roads underneath this as well if we need to, or we should be able to. Let's just double check that. Yeah, there we go. So it's high enough that we can actually run roads underneath, which is what we wanted. And then here it comes to ground level, and that'll swing around that way. I do need to work on the freight railway, which is underground here. So I need to figure out how to bring that off from here. I think I'm going to change the way that railway actually bends through that section as well, just to give us a little bit more space around here. So let's take the railway line out. This will hopefully give me a little bit more flexibility. So we curve it round a little bit tighter. We've gone a little bit too tight there, haven't we? There's no reason why it has to be dead straight. You know, we can certainly curve it round back on it, in on itself a little bit. There we go. We've got something that looks a little bit smoother and perhaps a little bit more natural. And the way that's going to just kind of snake its way through the forest there. You can see where camera's bouncing up and down because of the trees. But that gives us more space to play about with now that we've diverted it inside that area a little bit. So we can bring our freight connection off on this hidden side in the forest, take that underground, and then just run that underground and then connect up over here. And then the passenger stuff can stay above ground. And that way they're not going to get in each other's way. We're not going to get freight trains on the passenger network and passenger trains on the freight network, at least in theory anyway. So let's use this spot just here. What I want to try and do is I want to try and have a parallel line . That's not going to work. I find running two sets of lines like this, the easiest way to do it is, same with the roads, have spacer pieces of track, or spacer pieces of road connecting that you can then just draw the track to. So let's try and put those in. So it wants to come off. There we go, and then curve it round. We can try and keep equal distance this way, you see. And then same again, and we try and do the same over here. Let's do a little spot. There we go, let's take that piece out and hopefully that will connect and won't look too rough. Nope, that's going to look too rough. Ah, that's because it kinks through there, look. Alright. There we go. So now that we've got a shallow kind of approach, I can try and put a shallow passing loop in, like this. There we go. So I hate to see those the rail lines separate off at really sharp angles. Yeah, because it's just completely unrealistic on a fast connection. And now that we've got this, we can actually split this. So I'm actually going to take all of this central section back out again. It's just those shallow kind of splits that I wanted to have. I'm going to create a hill, and they're both going to go into the hill, and then, you know, go underground from that point. So we need to raise the terrain. Actually, we've already got a bit of a hill over here, look. So let's just extend that out a bit. There we go, hopefully that'll be sharp enough. That terrain doesn't go up enough on the edge over here. It just had a passenger train, I think, whiz through. Yeah, there we go, a freight train whiz through. There's a passenger train. Just raise the angle through there. We can actually make a little bit of a valley for the train to sit in. Through here. There we go. Let's take that bit out. I'm going to need to get quite specific with my fine-tuning of the height here. So I'm going to need to pull this up a bit more on this side to create that kind of tunnel mouth. There we go. And then that needs to be lower. Push that up to that kind of wall of the tunnel, or where the tunnel's going to be, like that. Get rid of these trees. And now we're looking to get that angle looking pretty straight in terms of height consistency, like that. So it looks as though the train is staying flat. It's given us a very, very sharp, or very, very stretched access there. So we're actually going to just need to rework this connection entirely here. Angle it in a bit more. There we go. That's a little bit better. It's still a little bit of a wonky kind of approach. And it's actually gone up on the terraforming there, hasn't it? Okay, so we need to rework the terraforming again. This is where it gets fiddly. It's trying to get everything balanced the way it should be. Let's clear that a little bit out there. Let's try this again. Bring the line out and then try and get a smoothish. There we go. That looks better. So we've got one side done. We need to do the same on this side. So again, let's just get rid of some of those trees. Just use the new brush system. Just take out all those trees there, so I can actually see what I'm doing. Let's go back into terraforming. There we go. Create that sharp kind of steep approach. We're going to again need to take that off and rework it. And then we want flat ground. Let's go with a smaller tool. We want to make sure that this approach here is pretty flat. I don't think this is going to be wide enough. Or possibly even high enough. Let's add a bit more height. Push it out a bit more. There we go. And again, I'm trying to get that track height to look pretty flat. And there you can see it. You can clearly see it's going down into the hill, which is not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to give that illusion of it being on level ground. So let's put in a level ground piece to connect to first of all. Can't see what I'm doing. There we go. So that looks like it's maintaining the same height. as we go in. So it looks like it's staying level all the way through. And then now that it's underground, now we can just put in a ridiculously sharp turn here and keep it underground. And we can just run this all the way across here. Like that. And then same here. And now we've got, instead of freight trains just kind of passing through on that line there, we've got a kind of a tunnel access here, which we can disguise a little bit better going forward, but we've got tunnel access here for freight trains to go in through here and then just run underground all the way through to our freight yard, where they'll come out just here into our freight terminal. So just need to wait now and see if we can get a train running through there. We should see one. Hopefully pretty soon. Of course, now we're not going to see a train for ages, are we? Let's just pause for a second, take another look at the chat, because it's been a while. Mr. Water says, I wonder what will be announced at Sony's State of Play tomorrow. It's not going to be a lot of earth-shattering announcements. It's more going to be a kind of just an update on things, and maybe a little bit more footage of stuff that's due to come out soon. I mean, if they had big earth-shattering announcements to make, then they'd be at E3 this year, but they're not going to E3 because they don't have anything really big and new that they can shout about until they're ready to announce their PS5, which I would imagine the more likely scenario is that we'll get an announcement of that around PSX at the end of the year, around December time. That would be my guess, or in the build-up to PSX, so sort of September, October, maybe get an announcement of the PS5 there, and then get more of a showcase of it at PSX with a first look at some of the PS5 titles, you know, for a release in 2020. That would be my kind of guess, but I don't think we'll see much exciting, brand new stuff. You know, certainly not massive titles at PSX, at State of Play. We'll get updates on some new projects. We might get a big promo push for Days Gone, which comes out next month. I'm sure we'll probably hear a little bit more about Last of Us 2. There'll be a few other announcements. Don't expect it to be massive, because there isn't really anything huge out there for Sony at the moment. Michael's popped in the chat. How you doing, Michael? Good to see you. And the Silent Gamer as well. And Grey Wolf, welcome. Right, I'm waiting to see if I can see a freight train. We've had a few go through, and then all of a sudden they disappeared. That's passengers. We want freight. More passengers. Go on, give us a freight train. They're not going to come now, are they? All right. Well, we've got a huge demand for industry, so we can look at zoning in a little bit more industry down here. Let's block in that little area there. Oh, there's one. Just saw one leaving from the docks. So if we go back to our transport routes... Actually, no, we go to inspect. Can I inspect the train underneath there? I don't think I can. No, I wasn't quick enough to get it. But, that train has disappeared out through there, so it's going to come out of one of these two exit points Which way is it going to go? Just wait for it to appear now. Like a rabbit sticking its head out of its hole. There we go. It's off and running. So our freight connection is established. We can now get freight in and out of the city, you know, from our docks, which is good. Obviously, we will have a change to that going forward, but I just wanted to be able to get that freight moving and actually get a bit more sort of life into this area with the freight trains coming in. We will be looking to maybe move freight traffic around to certain areas within the city as well. So we'll have maybe a freight drop-off somewhere else where we can unload nearer to a big commercial area, somewhere like that. And we still haven't filled this area yet, but now that we've dealt with that demand for industry, you can see we're getting a bit of a demand for residential starting to sneak back in. So we should start to see a bit more activity around this area here as new houses start popping up, in theory. Yep, there we go, we've got one popping in right there, look. So we should start to see this area fill out a bit more now. Do I have enough commercial around here? Let's have a look. You can see I've been quite sparing with the way I've laced my commercial areas in. I don't want to have these big, massive blocks of commercial where it just becomes a huge congestion nightmare. And also in low density, you don't have massive blocks, you know, like huge areas, like all this area here in the centre being commercial and then just everything on the edge being residential. You might see that in city centres, but you certainly don't see that in small, low density areas. So again, it's trying to keep that area, that air of realism going a little bit. Let's stick a small row of shops there next to the school. You have these small little areas where you have like a main sort of high street running through a small sort of town area, or you might see little corner shop areas like this. You know, the odd shop just popping up in certain places. You certainly wouldn't see just, you know, half of this area just as a big commercial zone. So we'll wait for the rest of that to kind of zone in. Getting a shortage of workers over here, which is to be expected. This is another reason why I want to try and get my train network up and running a little bit. I need to figure out where over here I want my station as well, because I do want one in this area. I think... Let's see. I'll tell you what I will do, actually. I had an idea. I'm going to redo that bit of railway that we've just worked on over here. I'm going to tear all this up because I've had an idea. I'm hoping it's quite a clever idea. At the moment, we've got this kind of very obvious, diverting branch just to get our freight traffic moving. What we can do is we can make it even more subtle and even more disguised than that. This is something I tried on my private project, and I don't know why I didn't think of doing it this way. So we'll landscape a bit. Let's go with that tool there, just to raise this area up a bit. And again, we'll put in very deliberate sort of mountainous areas around here. Let's start to smooth that out a bit. But we can put a tunnel right here at the entrance, and the train can just disappear into the tunnel as it comes into the map. And then we can run it underground, and we can put it on a nice diverting loop, and it frees up a lot more space, so we don't have to have this big mountain here. We can push it to the side. So again, if we put a raised surface here in front of the train like this, I can then immediately curve that train around the edge like that if I need to, but it means I don't have to cut across at this big arcing angle like that, because it's going to be hidden. So it'll visually look as though maybe it goes through there, but it doesn't necessarily have to. This also allows me to split a line for passengers and for freight at the same time. So I can keep a passenger connection, which can then come out of a tunnel over here and come out as a passenger line, and then the freight traffic can stay underground. So we'll try and smooth all this area out a little bit. Add a bit more height to some of the area. And we can smooth out some of those slopes as well to make it a bit more natural going forward. But you know, if we have it at the right height, we can actually build on top of here as well. We can have a little residential area up here, perhaps. Let's get rid of some more of these trees so again I can see what I'm doing. There we go. So again, we need to create that kind of steep wall for the train to run into. There we go. And again, we're going for that flat track illusion. There we go. So that curves in on that side. We do the same over here. There we go. It's only slightly obvious now that it's actually going downhill and not just going into a hill. It's a bit too sharp turn actually. Let's try and keep it a bit straighter. We can put a sharper turn in once we get underground. See, that's not high enough. Need a bit more height on the ground. Oh, that's too much. Yeah, that's way too much. There we go. We set that as our new height marker. Try this again. It's a little bit better. It's still slightly obvious. Where am I going? Terrain. Add a touch more height as well. And once we've got this kind of connection made, then we can terraform as much as we like to change the terrain around here. But initially, we just want a nice... There we go. That's better. Now flat actually is flat. And we get a proper kind of tunnel approach. That's good. So now we can lower that terrain as and how we need to. Plus, you know, we can run this around at a sharpish kind of angle. I can now have my freight split going off or happening under the hill. So I can have a passenger line that can rejoin out one side of a hill. And the freight traffic can continue underground. So I want to create... I need to get rid of all these trees again. I can't see what I'm doing. There's too many of them. Create an exit point. Sort of halfway through. Kind of like a gap in the hillside where the train reappears. And then we can pull our passenger line out from there. And then we don't have to worry about freight line traffic appearing on there as well. So, it's in the wrong spot. There we go. Let's go back to terraforming. Let's cut a chunk out through here. And again, we can do some more terraforming once we've done this to smooth everything out properly, but basically the train's going to exit through here, be above ground, go back into the tunnel and come out through there, and all will be here through here will be a single passenger line, which we can then bring a passenger train off to a station somewhere in this area, and the freight traffic will pass off inside the hill, go underground and come out underground through here and link up to this connection here, so that it's a hidden split and we don't see it. Can even make that a little bit more of a smaller hill there as well, so get the train to come back out through here, and then we've got a nice long passing area there, and as soon as it goes underground we can immediately pull the freight line off. So let's see how this works. So deletes. And we'll delete this bit out here as well, just so I've got a bit of clearance. Okay, so I need sharp edges here. To form the tunnel mouth on this side. There we go. Push that in a bit more. Bring the train out through there. And then curve it around through here. And then, again, need to create a sharper wall for that train to exit from over here. There we go. I'm hoping I've got enough space to be able to do this. So I want the train to kind of come out through this bit here. Am I on freeform? Yes. So I want the train line to kind of run through an angle a little bit like this. to about there, and then here is where we want it to go back into the hill again. That's not going to be steep enough, is it? I might get away with that, and then that can link up like that. And then in here, we can immediately bring the freight line off and go into this hill around here. And then it's this side that we need to deal now. I think I might be approaching at the wrong angle. Yeah, I am. So I'm going to need to put a little bit of a curve in place to approach at the right angle here. Yeah, we've got a bit of a problem. The terrain isn't flat enough here. So let's smooth that out. Right, is that going to work? I don't know. Give me a little bit more reach on my hill. So I need to make sure I've got space inside the hill to actually pull the passing line off. Right. Now I've got my kind of rough edge. Let's smooth this out again. Let's try that. Take the train line to there, and then from this point in, that wants to curve around, but again, it needs to look like it's going in flat. Like that, and then that should now theoretically connect reasonably easily. That's too much of an angle. This is where it gets complicated, trying to get this lined up properly. Try curving it on this side a touch. So fiddly at times. That's now too long a junction going in. There we go. That I can work with. Does that look flat? Yeah, there we go. Right, there we go. Finally, got it sussed. So, we can now immediately bring a freight connection off at a very sharp angle. And keep that underground. There we go. And then we can do the same over here. Bring a freight connection off at a sharp angle. This is completely hidden, so it'll never be seen. We can smooth out the terrain around the side of the railway, try and make it look a little bit more scenic. So first of all, let's just throw up a load of extra hill around the side, like that. We'll smooth the edges out in a moment. Let's go with a small tool, take the force and strength out of that, and just put a little bit of a kind of a channel either side of the railway, so it almost creates that kind of inner valley inside a cutting kind of impression. Don't want to overdo it too much. We want to smooth this terrain out as best we can, so it doesn't have ridiculously sharp biting walls all the way. Take some of that edge off it a little bit. Especially around the mouth of the tunnels. And there we go. We've got our train line that goes in. Immediately the freight line disappears underground, so you'll only see freight trains on the approach, but you'll never see freight running through here. We just see passing commuter trains, and then it'll run through there, come out through there, and again freight will go in but will never come out, because it'll all go underground and underneath. And we've got a nice little bit of a kind of a cutting for our railway just through there. We could even raise the actual height of the surrounding terrain so that we could maybe build a bridge over the railway and keep it kind of organic and natural in that respect. So let's take a look at doing that. If I maybe just push this out a touch more. I think I overdid it a little bit with the smoothing. And then on the other side, if we start to build that up on the other side a bit. There we go. We can have a cut through coming through this section to provide access to a station somewhere over here as well. So we can easily take a channel off there. But we've got a nice kind of slightly recessed railway through here, which we can now build over with a road going over the top of this area like that. And we can have something up here in this corner space over here. We can have a nice little bit there with a railway going between the area. Right, let's go take a breather for a second. Let's have a look at the chat. Dan says he likes the new overlay on Marwell showing the winter days, adds to the realism. The overlay on Marwell is something I've been wanting to put in for quite some time. It's just been trying to find the right combination of symbols that weren't copy protected or had watermarking all over them, and I found a set of 4 trees that didn't have any branding on them, one for each season, so that I liked, that didn't have big blocks of colour behind them, weren't overly cartoony, weren't were still visible, and that's so it's taken me a while to get the right symbols, but now that I've got those, you'll start to see that appear. Also, it just helps keep track of things a little bit, with this non-seasons playthrough that we're doing as seasons as best we can, because we don't have that sort of seasons overlay as part of the actual in-game HUD. because season isn't out yet, you know, it can be easy to quickly lose track of exactly where you are. So it's just as much for me as it is for the audience. Scott says, "What will be the next sack to come out here?" I am not sure what you mean by that. Pete's popped in the chat. How you doing, Pete? Yes, Corey. This is a DLC map. This I'm not 100% certain if the maps were made available as part of the updates or whether you have to have the DLC to have access to the map. But this is one of the ones that's attributed to mass transit. What am I smoking? A pipe? No, just homemade roll-ups. A pipe? I don't do pipes. Old men and hipsters smoke pipes. I am neither. Well, I'm not far off being an old man, but yeah. I'm not that old. And I'm certainly no hipster. Right. Now that we've kind of got the basics of that, we need to reconnect the underground part of our rail line, don't we? Let's have a look. There it is. So let's just run this underneath, like that. Ooh, that's gone underground. We didn't want that. Oh, sorry, overground is what I should have said. We want that to stay underneath. There we go. And same again over here. There we go. So our freight connection has a link to the outside world, but it's hidden from view and we won't see it. But we do see a passenger line that comes through here, which we can then pull off into our city over here and have an above ground rail connection for passengers. Oh, what's the next DLC set to come out? I'm not sure when it's coming out, but the next one will be Park Life. And then after that, we'll get Industries. There might be something else as well. I can't remember everything that's inside Season Pass 2. I know there was the European Suburb Community Pack, which is... actually, do I have that? I've got it installed, but do I have that in any of my districts? Do I even have actual districts up and running yet? Apart from... No, I don't. Okay, well, let's start to put some of those new European suburbia buildings in. Let's go with a small tool. I always like to build my districts with a small tool because you just get more fine control. Let's push this across to the edge of Maple Park. There we go. And then this area here will be a district. We'll smooth the edges out in a moment. this side of the roundabout. This will be a district along through here. There we go. Now that we've created, now we can go to a larger tool. Kind of fill that in a bit. There we go. Do I think we'll ever get Traffic Manager? Probably not, because it's a mod. It's not part of the base game, so it's unlikely. It would be nice, but it's unlikely, I think. Clean the edges of this district around here. There we go. I need to be careful with this bit here because I want houses on one side of the road to be part of one district and not the other. So I need to try and follow the curve of the road a bit. Same again. We'll use the road as a split point for the district. There we go. So that's Dean Park, and then we'll have another district here, this side of the roundabout. So all this area over here, this is what's going to become, well, the automatic name at the moment is Butler District. We may possibly rename that. Let's just create the boundary, roughly, of Butler District. And run that down to here. Oops. Started building another district by mistake then. Let's just paint all the way down like this. There we go. And then this side of the road will be another district. Try and split it a bit. Just try and find a good spot for a split. I think here, actually. Again, we can tidy this up in a moment. It's kind of trying to put the base shapes in of where these districts are going to be before we tidy everything up. Run that across through here. Go to a larger tool. Actually, no, it's too large. Let's go to medium. There we go. Just fill that in a little bit faster. And then we've got a little district here, which will carry across onto the other side of the road. and that will become something else. Although I could possibly take Myrtle Heights. Actually, yeah, I'm just going to make Myrtle Heights a bit bigger. It's going to be an easier way for us to deal with that. There we go. Take Myrtle Heights up to the road there. Oops. This is why I don't like using the big tool to actually draw boundaries, because a slight slip and you end up carving a huge gap where it's not supposed to be. So let's try and tidy these districts up a bit. Am I going to be playing Construction Simulator 3? If they ever port it to console, then I'll certainly look at getting that, but it's only been announced as a mobile game at the moment, so as things currently stand, no. Autosave. This suddenly starts jarring my movements a little bit. Oops. Oh, damn it. I've done it on the wrong district. It's meant to be Myrtle District. I've got to do all that again now. Deliberately push it across the road like that, and then we can tidy up our district line on the other side of the road once we're done. And then we've got Washington Heights, which is our little sort of leisure area. We want that to stay as is. But we want to have a nice, clean, smooth line but separating the district so it doesn't have that horrible kind of wavy effect that it does right now. There we go, that looks a bit cleaner, doesn't it? We need to just tidy up Maple Park again. There we go. Trying to make sure that the buildings are covered, but that the road itself is part of Myrtle, so that if we do apply any traffic rules, they will apply in that district and not necessarily be counteracted by this one. There we go, and I want the roundabout to be district free. It's always the fiddliest part of districts, is when you've got them bumping up against each other and you're trying to make sure that the joins of those districts are nice and clean. So everything around there is good. Happy with that. Obviously this is a bit of a mess over here at the moment between Butler and Myrtle Heights. Let's increase Butler ever so slightly. Just clean that line out there first of all. There we go. And we'll push out this way. is where it gets so fiddly. Got to be so careful not to make a mess. There we go. Quite pleased with that. So just need to clean this edge up. Do that for now, and then clean up the main road through here. This will be the boundary line between our districts going forward. There we go. All right, we've got some districts. So now that we have some districts, let's go to inspect our districts. And we want to put in some the new European stuff. So let's do it here in Myrtle, which is quite a big one. And we want the new European suburbia, which is part of that content creator pack. Let's have another look at the chat. Mr. Grease popped in. How you doing, Mr. Grease? Cinemad says he's never seen the game in vanilla. He played it modded only to try and make nice looking cities. How do I like it so far? I enjoy the game. I've been playing it since it came out. I got it on day one of launch on consoles, and the new options that we have certainly do make a difference. You can see everything's going to start dezoning or disappearing now as we start to get new buildings popping up in the new European suburbia style. So this area will look quite different in a moment. It can be tricky to get things looking realistic without a lot of mods. You know, just have to try and move things around as best we can and be creative. Hi Lewis, how you doing? Lewis says he can't wait for Industries. No, nor can I. That's the one I'm really excited for. Really looking forward to that one. Heard that there might be a Cities 2. I don't know where you've heard that. I haven't heard any kind of rumour about that. I mean, they're still working on expansions and ideas for future expansions for this, so I highly doubt it. At some point in the future, maybe we'll get a revamped version. But I think we're still years away from that. Mr. Water says, what's Construction Simulator 3? It's... Well, I mean, I played Construction Simulator 2, which was a port of the mobile game. They released Construction Sim 2 on mobiles, on Android and iOS, and then they ported it to PC as the Pocket Edition and to consoles as the Console Edition. And it's basically it's just a mobile game, but you know, it's fun. It's a fun little construction mobile game, and they've announced Construction Simulator 3 for iOS and Android, but it hasn't even been released yet. I don't think on mobiles, and it certainly hasn't been announced for consoles yet. Nothing is building back in. All the demands have disappeared, which is a little bit of a shame. I've just finished getting everything done, and the whole demand has just disappeared. We are seeing some buildings pop back in, although I think this is the old stuff. This is Butler District, so people are just moving into the older zones. Got to wait for the new stuff to come back in, but this is some of the new European suburbia stuff, so slightly different commercial buildings. We don't really have a lot of residential buildings to look at just yet. This is all commercial, I think. Yeah, none of the none of the residentials come back yet, apart from this one house here. There's one there, I think, and that might even be an older one. There's a newer one, I think. So we're going to have to wait for all those people to come back in. We're going to drop the taxes back down again to encourage people to move in. Again, we're not worried about money because we're playing with everything unlimited, so you know, if we can make the area a bit more attractive with lower taxes. It's possible I may have to, you know, close and reload the city to get it to trigger those new buildings coming in, which would be a bit of a frustrating thing, but we'll see. Hopefully this whole area will look a lot nicer with that new content pack. And here you can see again, this is the district using original stuff. That's starting to zone in, but all of our demands have just plummeted as a result of that change. So that's why nothing is filling back up. We've got no demand for anything at the moment. I'm going to need some temporary power lines to stop everything being abandoned. Okay, there we go. It's transmitting power through. Starting to get a few residential buildings popping in by the look of it, possibly. Or are these still commercials? They might still be commercial buildings. Ah, yeah, here we go. We're starting to get a few of these small little European suburbia buildings popping in. So it's going to take some time, but this area will rebuild. We've been going for about 2 hours now. So I'll tell you what we'll do is we'll end the session now, and then when we come back next Sunday, I'll leave this running in the background for a bit, and I'll let everything slowly build back up. And when we come back next week, this area should be hopefully restored back to its former glory, but with those new building styles. And then we can look at getting our station brought in from that line into this area, and then we can even look at getting a temporary station line run all the way over to there. And we can start thinking about building up our main sort of, you know, large city area over here as well. So, as I say, it seems like a decent place to kind of bring it to a close. And I will see you all again with some more City Sundays next Sunday.